This week on the Travel Show, I'm in the far north of Sweden to visit a city on the move, literally in one of the world's biggest ever urban transformations.
Well, the mine is our heart. We wouldn't be here without the mine.
Rajan heads to Croatia's capital Zagreb to take a look around some of the city's most exclusive addresses.
For 10 days of the year, the doors of these architectural secrets are flung open to the public so that even commoners like me can go in and snoop around.
And Lucy heads to the South Downs in the UK to road test the latest in travel tech.
I'm not 100% convinced. I think hardened hikers, beginners.
And we stop off in Bermuda for our latest in our Global Gourmet series. On the menu this week, a soup that is considered the national dish. We start this week in Swedish Lapland and the town of Kiruna, some 1,300 miles north of the capital Stockholm. It's the jumping off point for tourists heading further into Lapland to see the northern lights in winter and the midnight sun in the summer. But what put the area on the map in the late 19th century was the discovery of iron ore, the most widely used metal on Earth. Right, we've just arrived at the largest underground iron ore mine in the world. The stats for this place are staggering. It produces enough iron ore to build 40,000 cars every day. That's the equivalent of 6 Eiffel Towers. And right now, we're 540 meters below 0 point. I can kind of feel my ears starting to pop. This is the visitor center, so I'm gonna take a look around. Hello.
Hello.
What have you got for me?
A helmet.
The disused part of the mine has become a tourist attraction, giving visitors an insight into how the mine has evolved and expanded over the last century. Today's modern machinery allows miners to blast to incredibly deep levels.
Today, we are somewhere down there at 1,365 meters.
Nearly a
Below.
mile. Nearly a mile underground.
Yes.
That's astonishing. They produce 90% of Europe's iron ore here, worth billions of dollars. But for the early pioneers, things were a lot more basic.
So, Ari, I want to show you how the first miners lived. Because when they came here 1898, we didn't have any houses for them. So they had to build houses with whatever they could find in the forest. And it was cold and it was drafty.
So how many people would live in this place?
Well, big families. They could have 4, 5, 6 kids. And they lived in this space.
So you'd have 7 people from the family, and then sometimes they'd take in other people as well?
Yes.
The environment was harsh for those entering this new life. Could you imagine living in a house like this with the temperatures dropping to minus 30 degrees?
No way.
So it must have been hard for them to survive.
Well, of course it was. Some of them died because, well, they couldn't get enough food. It was cold. It was drafty, and for the small kids, well, some of them didn't survive this coldness.
These days, the mine employs 2,300 people, and there are 800 working underground, still in quite extreme conditions.
Now we are going into the darkness.
So we're still at 540 meters here?
Yes, we are. And, well, this is a common day in the darkness, because the tunnels, it's dark, where the machines are working.
It seems like there's an interdependency between the mine and the people in the city.
Well, the mine is our heart. We wouldn't be here without the mine.
Kiruna today is a bustling town, but the continuing expansion of the mine has destabilised the ground above it, to the point where it will eventually sink into a chasm. So the mining company have come up with a radical solution. They're going to move the town.
That big mountain over there dominating the skyline is the iron ore mine. Now in that direction is where the sinking began. You can see how the earth has just started to collapse, and what's going to happen is it eventually will spread over there, and everything you can see in that direction, all the houses, will collapse into that sinkhole, and that's why they have to relocate the whole of Kiruna. Now it's not the first time a city or town has been moved, but this is most certainly the biggest operation of its kind, and I'm not sure how they're going to do it.
In parts of the city, the bulldozers have already moved in, and over the next 2 decades, large areas of the town will also be demolished.
We can't rebuild a whole restaurant, we can't put too much money here now, because in 10 years it's going to be gone.
And buildings that are too important to demolish are being uprooted whole and transported a few miles down the road. And the spectacle is attracting a new wave of visitors. It's a pricey operation. The cost of the move is estimated at $2 billion.
We are approximately 4.5 kilometers from the old city center, and what we see behind us is the brand new town hall.
So you're going to move everyone and the buildings from the city centre to here?
Not exactly everything. About 6,000 people will be moving because their houses and their apartments will be affected by the deformation zone.
I've moved house 3 times. It's complicated. I can't imagine what it must be like to move a whole town or city and thousands of people.
It's an incredible project, but we will move approximately 21 buildings out of cultural value, such as old wooden houses, etc.
And do you believe this is going to be a better city once it's moved here?
I think so, yes. Because there are so many functions that will be brand new. The hospital, town hall, schools, etc. So I'm very optimistic about it. And I also like this location.
But some of the buildings, like this Gothic-style church, are too large to transport. It's going to be taken down bit by bit and rebuilt in the new location. It's been central to the community for generations. I meet Gumbrit again.
I was that little because I was baptized here. And then the communion was here in Kiruna Church. When I was going to get married, I was here too. And of course, I want to put that further on to my kids. I think it's the most beautiful building in the world. And just for a couple to walk this aisle and everybody's looking at you and you go upstairs and you see this beautiful picture, that's, well, you can't even describe the feeling you get.
And whilst it will be spared the wrecking ball, there are still mixed feelings about the changes.
I would like to move all the old buildings because they are so nice and picturesque. And they are old. They are almost 100 years old. And this is our history.
And in the future, maybe people will come to Kiruna, not for the mines, but to visit the town that moved. Next up on the travel show, we head to Bermuda, where fish chowder is a soup that is considered the national dish of the country in our latest Global Gourmet.
My name is Tekmo Mukazika. I'm a chef de cuisine at Hamilton Princess and Beach Club in Bermuda.
Okay, today I'm going to demonstrate, or I'm going to make Bermuda fish chowder. It's a very famous local dish. It originated during the 17th century with the first settlers in Bermuda. At that time, there was not a lot of refrigeration or any sources of keeping food fresh for a long time. So to preserve their fish that they used to bring on the island, they had to use rum and sherry peppers to make fish chowder. There are quite a few vegetables that go into the chowder. We have got peppers, you use some carrots, some ginger, and don't forget to put celery. And they have to be all finely chopped. So the basic, you have to have onion, you have to have garlic. The best onion to use is the Bermuda red onion, which is locally produced. It's sweeter than the regular white onion. So you start by sauteing all the vegetables that you have. Basically the onion first until it's translucent, and then you add all the other vegetables. Then you add your rum, so you need to cook out the alcohol. The rum just puts the flavor in the fish dish. Let it all cook together. The longer you cook it, the better it tastes. I present to you a perfect Bermuda fish chowder. This is delicious.
Still to come on the travel show.
We check out the latest in travel gadgets and navigation aids.
And my map's telling me I've gone a little bit off-piste, but I'm still near the trail.
Plus, Rajan heads to Croatia, where for just 10 days of the year, its capital opens the doors to some of its most exclusive venues.
Real person actually lives here.
A real person actually lives
and
here.
they let us in and everybody just come in and lounge about for 10 days in a row.
So stay with us for that. The Travel Show, your essential guide wherever you're heading.
This is the South Downs, the UK's newest national park. More than 200 square miles of chalk hills crisscrossed with hiking trails, and the perfect place to try out some tech. By way of an experiment, I've agreed to be blindfolded and driven to a random spot, from where I'll find my way back to civilization using only gadgets I've been given. So Ben, what's in the bag?
Okay, so in there, what we've got is hopefully some stuff that's going to get you back to where we've come from safely. So there's some navigation devices, some gadgets in there, and also something in there so that if it takes a bit longer or things don't go quite according to plan, just to make your life a bit more comfortable. This is your stop.
Okay.
This is where I leave you.
Blindfold off.
I'm heading back to the Royal Oak. It's about 5 minutes for me. It's going to be about an hour on foot for you. Just one thing. You'll probably find you haven't got a phone signal, so you really are on your own.
First up, the TomTom Adventurer, a GPS watch with a music player, heart monitor and all sorts of features. But it's the navigation I'm particularly interested in. I'm presented with a rather basic version of a map. It gives me my trail in all its entirety, as you can see. So the arrow on the map, on the big overview version, tells me that way. Yeah, that's the way. I'm a bit confused because there's a trail that way, so maybe if I walk down the trail and then gear to the right. And my map's telling me I've gone a little bit off-piste, but I'm still near the trail. Now for someone who uses things like Google Maps or Waze or whatever, it's not immediately obvious where to go. So I'm not going to be too harsh on the adventurer because I am not a seasoned hiker, but The user interface just really wasn't as intuitive as I would have liked, and even finding the map that Ben downloaded for me took me a while to find. One too many button taps. But it does do more than this. You know, it's got a built-in heart rate monitor. It counts your steps, your calories, altitude. I personally am not 100% convinced. I think hardened hikers, beginners. So a little break, and time to use the tech that Ben stowed away in here for my comfort. The Hand Presso outdoor set comes with a pump, cups and a flask for your hot water. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of espressos, but Ben doesn't need to know that. Strong. So carrying around a flask, it's pretty handy, but if you want something a bit stronger running through your veins, a portable espresso maker, it's pretty handy. It's pretty easy to use once you worked out what to do. But all in all, I'd say massive thumbs up. Espresso without a power socket. Handy. I believe Ben's downloaded something I need on this phone. View Ranger is an app available on iOS and Android in which you can download any of hundreds of thousands of detailed maps for pretty much anywhere in the world. The skyline feature is quite cool, so if you point your camera in any direction or it's something that you want to know about, it will label it for you. This could be points of interest. We're not particularly in mountainous environments, but it will label mountains for you as well. So you're looking at a navigation app with all the bells and whistles, and I quite like the fact that if there's no Wi-Fi or you're out of phone signal, you can rely on your phone's GPS to get you to where you need to go. One caveat I will say about this thing is that the maps are expensive. Downloading the South Downs map for this hike cost us £24. That's a lot of money. There you are! I just saw you look at your watch, so you know that I've probably got more than a little lost at some point.
I will always rely on non-technology bits. I'll always rely on a map and compass.
Yeah.
But usually we'll take technology because when it works and it works well, it makes life so much easier.
I think I deserve a drink. I think you do as well for waiting for me.
I think I probably owe you one. Okay.
Next on the travel show, Rajan's in Croatia's capital Zagreb with an invite to some of the country's most incredible homes.
On a hill overlooking Zagreb is the historic neighbourhood of Gradec. This is the oldest district in the city, filled with Baroque palaces and courtyards that were built when Croatia was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Today, Gradec has some of the city's grandest buildings that are largely off limits. But for 10 days of the year, the doors of these architectural secrets are flung open to the public so that even commoners like me can go in and snoop around. This is the Dvorište, or Courtyard Festival, where tourists and locals can see inside the city's walled palaces. Slavica is one of the organisers. Tell me about this particular place. Where are we now?
We're in a palace called Palace Erdedi Drašković. They used to be Croatian counts, famous ones. And this was built in 18th century, first for Count Erdedi, and then later for Count Drašković, rebuilt in 19th century. And it was actually a palace where they lived until 1947, when this building became a state archive of Zagreb, and this is where all the most important documents of Zagreb are kept.
Slavica takes me on a tour through Gradec's narrow streets and tells me why she started the project. This year, 7 of the gated buildings were open to the public.
Because walking through the old town, which is a residential area, and it's usually very quiet and not a lot of people up here, you see all these nice gates and you're thinking, what is behind? And somehow you know that there are these courtyards behind, but you don't have a chance to see them as a regular person. And this is how the idea started. We wanted to open them. We wanted ourselves even to feel the atmosphere, reinterpret a little bit of the history, give some urban taste to it, and make it accessible for all of our citizens and tourists.
Some of the courtyards are now used as state offices, but others, like this one, are still private residences. So, as you say, a real person actually lives here.
A real person actually lives here.
And they let us in and everybody just come in and lounge about for 10 days in a row.
Yes, like us. Some of them actually come in and have a drink with us in the evening. There's also famous actress actually who lives here. This person, I think he's on vacation, so it depends. But yeah, they actually live here.
By night, all of the squares are transformed into performance spaces.
In 10 days, we have more than 17 concerts.
Yeah.
So it's every evening it's 7 concerts. So it's not just Croatian music. It's from French chanson, Latin music, it's pop, R&B and classical music. So we have really different styles of music.
It's surreal to see these spaces, which were once home to 17th century counts and nobles, packed today with people partying. Vedran tells me it's the atmosphere that makes the Dvorište festival unique.
This festival is not just about the buildings. It's
No.
not just about nice buildings, nice old buildings.
No, definitely great. It's about emotion. We want here to make new love, to make new friendship. And the main point is, okay, when you come to someone's courtyard, actually you come to his home. Everyone who visit courtyards said, okay, this is special, I will remember for the rest of my life.
Sadly, that's your lot for this week. But make sure you join us next week when...
Krista is in Paris, looking at how the city is seeking to reverse falling tourism numbers by reassuring visitors that it's a safe place to visit.
The most high-profile project is here at the iconic Eiffel Tower. Access to the bottom of the tower is currently restricted by these pretty ugly temporary barriers. But the city has just begun construction on a series of 2.5-metre high glass walls to protect tourists at the site.
So that's next week. But remember, you can keep up with us on the road in real time by following us on social media. But for now, from me, Adia Depitan, and all the Travel Show team here in Swedish Lapland, it's goodbye.